Hi everyone. So I chose to do the probability and entropy project. So what is entropy? So entropy describes how mixed or spread out a system is. For this project, a mixture of heads and tails is a higher entropy state, while all heads or all tails is a lower entropy state. So higher entropy states are more likely because they have more possible arrangements. So for the four penny system, there are 16 possible outcomes. There is one way to get zero heads and one way to get four heads, but there are six ways to get two heads. So getting two heads is six times more likely than getting zero heads. And since two heads and two tails is the most mixed state, it has the highest entropy. All right, and for the 20 penny system, with 20 pennies, there are 1,048,576 possible outcomes. There's only one way to get zero heads, but there are 1,000, or sorry, 184,756 ways to get 10 heads. So getting 10 heads is 184,756 times more likely than getting zero heads. And since 10 heads and 10 tails is the most mixed state, it has higher entropy. Then the 100 penny system. So with 100 pennies, outcomes near 20 heads have the greatest number of possible arrangements, so they are the most likely and have the highest entropy. There's only one possible arrangement that produces zero heads, and this graph shows that as the size of the system increases, low entropy states become extremely unlikely. Now, probability, entropy, and system size. So what is the connection between probability and entropy? So higher entropy states are more likely because they have more possible arrangements. Low entropy states have fewer arrangements, so they are less likely. And does increasing the number of pennies affect the likelihood of high and low entropy states? Yes. So as the number of pennies increases, high entropy states become much more likely compared to low entropy states. So examples. So for the four pennies, two heads is six times more likely than zero heads. And then for 20 pennies, the 10 heads is 184,756 times more likely than zero heads. And the penny deal. So would I take a deal where I'd get an A only if I get zero heads when tossing 20 pennies? And no, I would not take that deal. The probability is only one out of 1,048,576 on each toss. Repeated tossing would increase the overall chance, yes, but it would still be too risky of a deal and I would most likely end up getting an E. So I would not take it. And is it possible to make any of these systems go to zero heads? Yes. So the system can be made to reach zero heads by manually flipping every head's up penny to tails, but this would require outside intervention rather than having it occur randomly. And do the results support the relationship between probability and entropy? Yes. So in each system, the more mixed states had more possible outcomes and were therefore more likely than the low entropy states. And my conclusion, so the data shows that higher entropy states are more probable because they can happen in more ways. As the number of pennies increase, the system becomes more likely to be near an even mix of heads and tails. For low entropy states like zero heads, it's still possible, but it becomes extremely unlikely in larger systems. Thank you.